Trying to figure out what sales funnel to use? How about a free template? What's up guys, Jason here, Aspiring Entrepreneur, and in this quick video tutorial, I'm going to be showing you what I think is the best sales funnel model for 2017 when you are just getting started. Now, what's really cool with this particular video is I'm going to be running through the entire sales funnel process and each step in detail, and then at the end, I'm going to give you a link where you can go download a complete mini course on how to put this together, and it also includes a swipe file and scripts that you can literally copy and paste to put this together even faster than I did, because I slaved over this process for almost 8 months, and I want to help you guys just kind of shortcut that process and learning curve as quickly as possible. So let's go ahead, dive in. The type of sales funnel I think is best to kick things off with when you're just getting started is a webinar sales funnel. Now, I know a lot of people ask me, like, why on earth would you suggest a webinar sales funnel? Now, I want to be clear, this is a automated webinar sales funnel. I actually made the mistake in the beginning of trying to do a live webinar sales funnel, and showing up for 2 webinars a day for 30 days was exhausting, right? So definitely don't recommend starting live. So this is all about automated webinars. And after analyzing hundreds of funnels, split testing on my own, and observing and conducting market research with my team on what was working for people across almost all niches, webinar sales funnels came to the top of the list, and so that's what I recommend. Of course, you may find that it doesn't exactly work in your niche, but there have been very, very few niches that I've ever found where a webinar sales funnel wasn't one of the top 3 solutions, so that's why we're going to cover it in this video. And then again, I'm going to run through the entire process, and make sure you stick around at the end, because I'm also going to show you the lean model of this, because I'm going to show you the big, huge Hulk, and then I'm going to show you the lean model, the few steps that you actually need to set up at the beginning so you begin testing your webinar as quickly as possible. That way you don't fall into the trap that I did, spending 9 months trying to build this wonderful, pristine funnel, and then have nobody go through it because one of the parts was broken. So let's go ahead, dive right in. The webinar sales funnel, here is a screenshot or graphic of all of the steps when it comes to putting together a webinar sales funnel. Now, I know this looks like a lot. Again, I'll go through at the end what the essential elements are that you start with, and then you can build it out from there. Now, first we have the opt-in page. And what's unique about a webinar sales funnel is your sales presentation and your value are actually put into one, which is part of why I like it so much. So your webinar can be anywhere from 40 to 90 minutes. It's very important that whatever you promise on your landing page, you actually deliver 110% in your webinar, right? So one of the things we like to do is called open loops when we create webinars or content. And what essentially this means is on your landing page, you're saying you're going to learn X, you're going to learn Y, you're going to discover, Z, right? And then in the webinar, it's important that you actually deliver on X, Y, and Z. It's critical because a big mistake a lot of people make with webinar sales funnels is that they have the product solve the problems that were talked about on the landing page. You don't want to fall into that trap. You want the webinar to be so valuable that it solves everything, and in the webinar you bring up new problems that your product solves. That way at the end they solved a problem that they had, and then you brought up a new problem that your product solves. That's pretty key in terms of how this flows together and how you can quickly get this up and running and working much faster, as opposed to putting together this great 40 or 90 minute webinar and then wondering why the heck no one's showing up. So that's pretty critical in terms of understanding what to put on your landing page. Your landing page should be only talking about the things you're going to solve on the actual webinar. Now, as soon as they hit the thank you page after they've signed up, there should be a welcome video essentially saying, hey, thank you for signing up, reinforcing their decision to show up to the webinar. Essentially, you want to stroke their ego a little bit and say, hey, you're really smart for showing up to this webinar, and by the way, here's a awesome tip for you to get started right now. Now, that awesome tip is optional. That will take the 90-second video to 5 minutes, but if you just want to say a quick thank you, you're smart, make sure you show up on time, bring your pen and pencil, add it to your calendar. That's like a 60 to 90-second video, super easy to do on your thank you page. Then depending on how many days out the webinar is, if you're using an automated system, you're going to have 3 opportunities. That's typically what Stealth Seminar, Webinar Jam, EverWebinar provides you for free. And so you'll have those reminder emails The software will take care of that, and then you have the webinar itself. Now, optionally, you can have 2 to 3 videos that come out before the webinar that are just strictly 100% content, so you can talk about micro problems, and you can also handle objections people might have to the solutions you have on your webinar or your product or service. It's important that those pre-webinar videos are 100% content. There's zero pitch at all. The only pitch you can have is show up to the webinar, right? But you're just seeding the value of the webinar in those videos. Again, that's optional because it takes a tremendous amount of time to set those up. I definitely recommend leaving that out of the lean model that I'm going to be talking about in a little bit here. So you've got the webinar, and then once you have the webinar, the 2 things are going to happen. Either they're going to purchase, they're going to leave early, or they're going to see the offer and not purchase, right? So the people who purchase, they're going to be taken to a checkout page, and then once they check out, you're going to offer them 2 or 3 other essentially upsells or downsells right off the bat to try and increase the revenue per customer, right? What's important with these offers is that they don't conflict with the offer that you made on the webinar. So if your offer solves problem X, the upsell should solve problem Y, A, or B. It shouldn't be, here's a better way to solve problem X, because then it's going to take away from the offer that you just made. People are going to go, well, I thought I just learned how to solve X. You're telling me there's a better way to solve it? So remember, your upsells should always be complementary, not conflicting, right? If someone goes into Macy's and they buy a nice collared shirt, you're going to be cross-selling or upselling them on a tie or some cufflinks. You're not going to say, hey, that white shirt's nice, but you know what's really nice? This white shirt that's actually a better price. And you're like, what? I just bought this shirt, and now you're telling me there's a better deal that you were holding out on me until I gave you money? Nah, that wouldn't make sense. However, here's a nice tie that goes with it, or here's some cufflinks, or here's a great blazer, those would make sense. Silly example, I know, but that's just how you want to think of complementary cross-sells and upsells versus, here's just a better t-shirt, right? Nobody wants a better shirt. They just bought the shirt. Now, for those who don't buy on the webinar, you're going to have a short email sequence essentially coming up with ways to combat any objections they may have to the product or service offering. You can have a webinar replay saying, hey, I noticed you left early, or hey, I got questions on this and that, and here's the answers to them, and here's the replay if you want to go check it out. And then what's really important with a webinar sales funnel is you do end your sequence at some point. So it's not something where you just keep going and going and going for weeks on end, right? It should be no more than a week or 2, and then you say, okay, the webinar's down, it's gone, that was your final chance, because you want the webinar to still feel like an event and a limited time thing, as opposed to, this endless piece of content that people can keep coming back to. It's what helps differentiate a webinar from just a normal launch sequence or VSL. And then completely optional is the last part, where you essentially just throw a Hail Mary and say, what gives? I gave you all of these pre-webinar videos. I gave you this webinar. I sent you all these emails about all this extra information. I gave you a bunch of post-webinar videos if you decide to do post-webinar videos. What on earth? What else could I give you? And essentially, I've seen some things like this, and they seem to work pretty well for other people. Personally, I have not done it, just because at that point, I have another funnel that I'm going to start moving people into. So you can either move people into another funnel, or if you don't have one, just throw a Hail Mary and say, what the heck? I don't know why I don't know why you haven't purchased. Just tell me what I can do, tell me what's wrong. And so there's a quick rundown of the webinar funnel. So now that you know the steps, here's what I promised in the beginning of the video, the lean startup model, if you will, for this funnel, how to get it lean and mean running, up and running as quickly as possible. So all you really need to get started is the landing page, the webinar itself, and then the post-webinar emails. That's it. Those are the only 3 elements you need to get started. So if you're using a software like Sell Seminar or Webinar Jam, you'll just use their pre-made templates for pretty much everything else, right? Because your webinar software, they already have emails for you to go out at the beginning. Don't even bother touching those, right? They're just reminding people to show up. Focus on the landing page, focus on the webinar, and then once you have those 2 done, then create some back-end emails, because someone who has actually showed up to your webinar, it's a much better use of your time to focus on those people who actually showed up, who didn't purchase for whatever reason, than trying to create more content to get more people to show up, if that makes sense. You're going to focus on your warm leads first, and then as you have time, you can go build out the rest of your webinar funnel where those pre-webinar videos and those pre-webinar emails are focusing more on cold prospects. And that's it. So make sure to check out the link in the description to get access to the Aspire Journal Notebook, where I actually have a complete mini course of how to set up each step in this webinar funnel process. And it also includes scripts and swipe files. So really, there's just no excuse for getting this up and running within the next month or two. The longest part, of course, is going to be writing your webinar, but I actually have a webinar outline, I have a webinar script, and I have a complete example of what a finished webinar looks like for you guys over there. So make sure to go over to the channel link or jasonwhaling.com, sign up for the Aspire Notebook. It is all there, done for you. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video informative and actionable. If you got some value out of it, go ahead and slap that like button and then hit subscribe, because over on my YouTube channel, I'm going from A to Z and everything in between on what it takes to not only put together a webinar sales funnel, but build a business from scratch. We've got a great growing community of fellow aspiring entrepreneurs, and we are all focused on growing our audiences, spreading our messages, building our businesses from nothing. So I encourage you to come join the community over there. So make sure to like and subscribe. And until the next video, keep building the business you love. Take care.